We'll start with Anton.
Hi Nick, nice to see you. Let's start, obviously, look, your players have been all over the world during the international break, and you obviously had sort of injury to key players before the break, so I'm just wondering how the squad's looking going into this game.
Squad's had an opportunity to obviously go away with their national teams, and the majority of the squad have come back in a really good place. Good chance to get some rest into Kirsten Kasparine, Caroline. You can see across the board a lot of our players played some minutes but not maximum minutes. And I think the issue that we had previously to the international break was that the majority of our players were playing, maximum minutes all the way through. So that's a huge positive. Of course, there's one negative. We lost Viv, and that is something that the medical team are ongoing with, and she's with the medical team. She's positive. We're positive. But it's not looking good in the sense of imminently being able to impact any of our games.
How disappointing is that, considering she's been such a driving force, not just on the field, but kind of feels like she's taken a real sort of leadership, trying to drag this team up at certain points of the season?
Yeah, of course, it's hugely disappointing for Viv because of the role she's played on the pitch, and for me personally because she's been so pivotal in the results that I have got with this team and the periods where we've showed real positivity. But to your point, she's playing a huge role in dragging this team up, and she's still doing the same thing there today in the meeting room and on the training pitch. She's back. She's really positive. She's going to concentrate on rehab now. We're going to give her all the support that she needs to be back out there as quick as possible. And for us, as an FA Cup semi-final, right, it's a great opportunity for somebody else to come in. This team showed what it can do in the first half against Chelsea. It showed what it can do in the Brighton game. Viv is a huge player for us, but at the same time, there is some really important players in this team that can make some really important moments for the team. So for me, it's a great opportunity. I think injury is part of the game. It's something that we have to deal with. But if I was in that locker room now and I was fit and healthy, I'd be thinking it's a huge opportunity for me to play a huge part in an FA Cup semi-final.
How fit and healthy is Bunny Shaw then at the moment?
Bunny won't make the game. She's working away with the medical team. I think for me, how fit and healthy is she? She's not imminently ready to come and, help us on Sunday. But she, I think one thing that I've been really inspired by is, okay, we've got many injuries, but those injured players are playing a huge part in contributing to the team's environment, to the team's mentality and preparation, but also they're working incredibly hard to be back as soon as possible.
Is anyone potentially coming back this weekend?
Yeah, I think you can see, I think, this weekend is a very specific question, right? But you can see through social media, we've got Alex Greenwood on the pitch, we've got Lauren Hemp on the pitch, Rebecca Knack trained today, Alba Fagino is trained. So, there's lots of players, but for us, it's about, we can't afford to re-injure. I think we might have had certain players back here and there if we'd have, not had some unfortunate re-injuries, so we can't afford one more. So they'll all be back at the right time, but the team that I've just put out there in the training and I've worked with, it gives me, huge confidence that we can be competitive this weekend.
City fans and England fans will be desperate to see Alex and Lauren back. You said they're back training sort of on the pitch now. Alex has said she wants to be back before the end of the season. Are you hopeful they'll both be back within weeks or before the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, we've just presented a 5-week plan to get us an FA Cup, or potentially an FA Cup, and in the top positions for Champions League, and they're involved in that. That plan is there. They are involved in that plan. I'm more than confident that we can get them to a place where they can contribute. When that is, it's difficult to say now, right? It's not going to be for this game. But, things happen fast in football, and, if it's Everton or it's Leicester or it's, Man United, it's, whenever. We have to continue to get results, right? I said before the Brighton game, we have to win this game, and that gives us a chance. The good thing about the Brighton game is you look at the likes of Naomi Lazell and Gracie Pryor and, Lily. These players are contributing to wins in WSL, so of course we want these players back. But the players that we've got in the squad are giving us performance levels that are contributing to wins.
Finally, look, you've had a sort of almost season-defining run of games against Chelsea, and this coming up against Manchester United, you play them both in the Cup and the League before the end of the season. Another sort of feels like another little mini-series, effectively. How important is this starting that mini-series with a positive performance and a win?
Yeah, I think it's a home game, right? And I will continue to say to the team, we should play to win and expect to win and have a huge desire to win. whoever we play at home, right? Whether it's Chelsea who are leading the league, whether it's Man United, whether it's Arsenal, we're going to play in front of our fans, and there's going to be a lot of people in the joy here. It's going to be a great occasion. And I said the same in the Champions League game. We are the only team to defeat the champions-elect, and that was in this stadium. We have to take huge confidence from that. But we know Man United is going to be incredibly difficult. I think Mark's done a really, really good job. You look at their defensive record, you look at the position they're in, you look at the form they've got. Arguably, they're in better form than us, so they're the favourites for the game, right? They're the team in the Champions League spot, so they've sort of got everything to lose. And with all these injuries and with everyone writing us off and with us going out the Champions League, we just got no pressure. We just got to go play, right? For me, it's a game that we have to perform in front of our fans for ourselves.
Hi Nick, you just spoke about Manchester United there, where they are in the league. They won the FA Cup last season. I just wonder how this rivalry has changed since you were last here, in terms of the rivalry between the two sides, and obviously a semi-final of the FA Cup to be all Manchester is fantastic for the city as well.
I think it's pretty from my experience, it's unique, right? Manchester United are coming here above us in the league as the holders of the trophy. Like I said, and I didn't experience that, although I thought Casey was doing a top job when I was competing against Manchester United. But they're Manchester United, right? They expect to win trophies. So I have huge respect for Mark. I did when he was the Birmingham City manager, and when he went out to Orlando, he does a top job. He's a real high-level coach, and I expect a really, really difficult game. But for us, we have a huge desire. It's really difficult for me to dilute my expectation, and my expectation is that I want to win trophies with Manchester City women. So I expect a difficult game, but I have a huge desire to progress.
You've won the FA Cup with Manchester City women before. Where does that rank in your managerial career that day? I
did it twice. So
2017, sorry.
Yeah, no, the first one, and I don't mean to be she's saying that. The first one was incredible because it was. They're both very unique. The first one was important because it was the first one at Wembley, and we missed out in the semi-final the year before, which was, 2016 was the first year that Wembley was introduced for an FA Cup final. We lost in the last minute to Chelsea. So, Ji So-yun scored in the extra time, and it was, really painful. I'm a huge football fan, and I want to lead my team out of Wembley. So the game against Birmingham in 2017 is really important to me. But the 2019 one was unique because in 2018 we blew the chance to win a Champions League, win a league. We lost in the League Cup final to Arsenal, and it was our sort of real moment to go and reset. So there's a little bit of that in this game for me. We did just lose a League Cup final, and we did go out of the Champions League, but the opportunity to lead a team out at Wembley, there is nothing more special than that.
We'll go to Zoom now if anyone wants to ask a question. Tom?
Thanks, Nick. Really nice to speak to you. Can I just ask a bit more about that Manchester United defence, who concede so few goals? How difficult do you think it is going to be to kind of break through that, in particularly without some of your strikers that you've spoken about?
Yeah, I think the facts, the stats, they don't lie, right? They've conceded the least amount of goals. They're really resolute. They defend their box really, really well. And, I don't expect it to be any different in this game. We've got to be at our best in attacking moments. We've got to, we've still got some quality. We might have some key injuries, but we've got some real quality in the team with, Mary Fowler, Carolyn, with Jess Park, with Laura Coombs, with Jill Rudd. There's many players that can contribute. So for us, my expectation of an FA Cup final is that it's going to be really difficult. So this is no different.
Thanks, Nick. Could I just ask one other thing on a different topic? How much confidence you take from the fact that you've got the home advantage? And I suppose the second part to that question, because I know you've played in neutral semi-finals in this competition before in your first spell, where do you stand on the idea of these semi-finals being not on a neutral ground? Good for City this time, but what are your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, I can see the sort of thinking around having it neutral. I think the final is neutral. I don't really have a real big opinion on it. If we didn't have home advantage, I would put it down to the draw. Right, the draw is the draw. So I think it's important for us because we really, the most important thing for us is to play in front of our fans, and when we're at home, we play in front of a lot of them. So, for us, it's about just making sure that we carry that responsibility of performing at the level our fans expect.
Thanks, Nick. Wishing you all the best.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thanks, Tom. Any more questions from Zoom? No, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.